Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is Burn Noticed, a podcast about Burn Noticed, which is a podcast about the show Burn Notice.
It's not that difficult. Please keep up.
Today, we're going to be talking about episode 6, maybe? 6? Unpaid Debts, which is the title of the Burn Notice episode, and also the Burn Noticed episode.
They have the same title.
Convenient.
Yeah, streamlined.
Yeah. Maybe a little confusing, because if you want to differentiate between the two, how do you do that? Burn Notice. Never mind, I answered my own question.
All right, would you like to hear my recap of the episode based on my understanding from just listening to the podcast?
Burn Noticed.
Yes.
Not this podcast.
Not this podcast. I haven't listened to this episode
I've learned
yet.
nothing from this podcast. Let's hear your recounting of the plot of Unpaid Debts.
It feels really long.
This episode has stuff.
Stuff actually happens in it, and
Yeah.
just from listening to the podcast, it feels like one of the first ones where things happen.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have Burn Notice gets a new FBI tale. Mystery gun guy. Mystery gun guy threatens Burn Notice's mom with guns. Mom's house gets messed up from the ensuing fight, and so Mr. Burn Notice has to take the case of the week to get some cash. The case of the week is Sam's repo man friend needs to repo a boat, but the people who have the boat are mean. So he hires the Burn Notice crew to get it back. They do, and it was really easy. And that's the end of the episode, and it was great.
This isn't entirely correct, but okay, keep going.
This is my understanding.
This is wrong, but continue.
This is what they said in the episode. I listened to it with my ears. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. You can correct me at the end. Please hold all comments, questions, and concerns until the end of the recap. Thank you. They take the boat back, and it's super easy. But then when they go to bring it back, there are complications for reasons. And the reasons are that the people they were delivering it to are dirty cops, and there's money in the boat, and they want the money, and they were going to kill the repo guy and take the money. But then, because Mr. Burn Notice is Mr. Burn Notice, he figured that out. And so nobody got dead and they left. But now there are these two groups of people. There's the mean boat people and the dirty cops. And they both want the boat money.
Well, yeah, that's correct.
Okay. In the C plot, Burn Notice's mom fucks the repo man. In the A plot, the repo man gets kidnapped by the boat people. Everything is solved by making the boat people and the cops shoot at each other. The end. And then the B plot is resolved by figuring out who the mystery gun guy is, but I didn't write his name down.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
Something Bly, I think.
I don't think he was, it was his boat. That's the thing I think you're wrong on.
I didn't say it was his boat. He's a repo man.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was his boat.
Okay.
Nowhere in these notes.
That's what it sounded like you were saying.
I said he was
it's
a
not
repo man.
Super easy to get it back.
Which means he needs to get the boat. He needs to repossess the boat.
They had a whole plan to get the boat. It wasn't that easy to get the boat.
I mean, I'm saying it was the case of the week is we need to go get this boat. And then it's we got the boat. And I'm that feels really early in the episode to have resolved it.
It wasn't just that they were getting the boat. The job wasn't necessarily getting the boat. It was delivering the boat was the job.
I said that he delivered the boat. I said nothing technically inaccurate.
Yeah, but that was more the purpose of the job than the actual getting the boat. That job was delivering the boat. He could have got the boat, probably. The thing was delivering the boat.
They said he tried to get the boat and they beat him up. That's why I said they were mean.
Okay. I don't know, maybe I didn't pay attention to the plot of the episode very well.
Do you pay attention and you're trying to correct me?
Yeah. Also, I don't super remember them kidnapping Repo Man. I thought they kidnapped his daughter.
No, they arrested his daughter.
Oh, okay.
You watched the episode!
It was a week ago.
You also listened to the podcast.
Yeah?
This is all information I got from the podcast that we just listened to.
All right, You got it. You did it. Good job.
You're supposed to be ranking my understanding of it, and you're saying stuff that's just blatantly wrong.
So you got the mean boat people, Jamaicans,
and that is something that I knew. I just didn't write down.
And the dirty cops, white dudes. Yeah, that all checks out. Cool.
So what part was I wrong about?
I don't know. I thought you said it was super easy, and I was like, no, there's a whole everything went wrong. And then you said that everything went wrong, so I was confused at that point.
It sounded like the whole idea of the episode was I need you to get this boat. And then they do, and it's like, wow, that went easy. And then, like, when they go to give the boat back, it's like, just kidding, it's actually super fucked. That's what I assumed the episode was like. I could be wrong. I didn't watch it. I listened to Burn, Noticed.
You also left out the B-plot story of the development of Burn Noticed and Fee's relationship.
Oh, I didn't, because it bores me.
It was the best scene in the episode.
Was it?
Yeah, there was some interesting stuff going on, because the scene where they're being bugs, and like they're having a conversation, but they're also like writing stuff at the same time, because they think they're being bugged, and she's trying to trick him into talking about their relationship at the same time, and then she straps a vibrator to the window.
I remember the vibrator.
Which, I want to say, maybe it's a sex toy, but maybe it's just one of those, like, personal massager things, you know? Like, those exist, too. Like, you just use on your back.
You know those are sex toys, right? You know they're just called personal massagers so that they can sell them on daytime TV,
no,
right?
My mom had one, and I'm pretty sure it was just for her back.
Okay, here's the thing, and this is crucial.
My mom does not fuck.
Your evidence that that's just not true. Here's the thing, and this is crucial. What did it look like?
I mean, it was like...
Was it like
white?
2 little rotating nubs?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's... You might be right, then. If it was shaped like a bullet, you're full of nonsense.
Like, it wasn't anything she hid, so it was probably fine, right? And I saw her use it on her back.
I don't know why this is relevant, that you're just like, I would just like you to know that there are other things that vibrate.
I just feel like you couldn't get away with having I mean, the vibrator thing in the episode is just one thing, but it doesn't look particularly... It's definitely not, like, penis-shaped or anything. As I'm saying, penis-shaped.
I know, that was great. That was lovely.
The boss walked in.
We record these at work. It's lunch break, it's fine. Is it not particularly penis-shaped in the episode?
No.
This is now suddenly the most important thing.
No.
Please pull up a Google image. That's in your search history forever now.
It's a wand vibrator.
Okay, that's...
Well, they don't have a picture of it online. The Burn Notice fandom is not as big as the Doctor Who fandom, where I can just search anything.
And it will
and
pop
it just
up.
pops up.
What I have questions about is your understanding of what is and is not a vibrator. Because, like, I feel like you've called your own expertise into question now.
I mean, I don't have, like, a personal history, so...
Well, that's a shame.
I don't know.
Do they not call it a vibrator in the episode? Is that what you're saying?
I don't remember what they call it, but that's the thing.
Yeah, man, that's a vibrator. That is not for back massages at all.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay.
How did they get away with that in USA? Alright, so what's next?
It just feels like a weird thing that you were like, it might not be a vibrator. It might just be a back massager.
Yeah.
I guess, but it's not.
Oh, I was supposed to rank your...
yeah, please.
5.
Out of?
Sure.
Okay.
My understanding of the plot was a 4 from having watched it and listened to the podcast.
Yeah, I'm honestly furious about this. The whole point is that you watch the episode so you can be like, yeah, you totally have a good understanding of it. And you're like, that's not what happened. Pretty sure they kidnapped his daughter. And I'm like, no. She got arrested. Anyway. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna need you to, like, step up your game just a little bit. Just a little bit.
No, that's where the comedy comes from.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm turning around from the plot side of my notes to the other stuff of my notes. Before I start with, like, what I have, is there anything that you want to point out?
Some good jokes in this one.
Yeah.
Unpaid Debts, Millennial Anthem. It's funny. It's good when things look good.
That's true. I actually have a t-shirt that says that.
Burn Notice, a show for women. Let's look at some butts.
Let's look at some butts. I mean, to be fair, a show for women, let's look at some butts, is basically, like, if that was a Netflix description, I'd click on it.
I really laughed hard at he has a job, if you know what I mean. I mean, needs a job. He's gonna get jerked off. Thought that was funny. You probably are like, oh, Chris, stop saying those gross things.
Yeah, for sure.
Bernard Notice, PhD. Hilarious. The waves of the Everglades. Just them riffing on that made me laugh. Finding out that it's Homer and not Virgil. And then, like, comparing that to, like, every kid who has done the wrong book report. Thought that was funny.
Oh, I do have to ask. So Homer, which is not something I brought up in the plot, recap, but Homer is like the alias for this episode.
Yes.
Who is Southern? You being the foremost expert on Southern accents.
Okay.
Sure. Please rank it for me. I did not watch the episode. I'd like to know.
It was okay. I don't super remember. It didn't bother me.
It wasn't actively the worst.
Yeah, like his accent when he was doing not Remington, because that was just him. The guy before who had like this sort of like Jersey accent or whatever, that bugged me more because it just felt super exaggerated. So I don't know, I'm not from there. But like this seemed fine. It's not like over the top. From when I watched the show before, I remember he does like Southern accents more often, I feel like. And like when I think of him, I kind of sometimes imagine that. In fact, Chris Cherry, co-host of Burn Notice, and I and Ray Friesen co-wrote a book called Road Trippy, and I created a character that was based on Jeffrey Donovan, and in my head it's Jeffrey Donovan with his Southern accent. So
is it Homer?
It might be Homer. It might be Homer a little bit. Yeah, I think it's Homer. But the character's name is Vic.
Vic is Homer.
Vic is Homer.
Ben is Glory. One of these days I'm gonna not feel compelled to say Ben is Glory, but
Ben is Glory?
Ben is Glory? But it's not anytime soon. Anyway, it seemed like you had more to your list there before I interrupted.
I just had one other thing, which is they're talking about like it's always like a kidnapped daughter or there's a daughter in danger, and it's never like a kidnapped son. I want to call slight bullshit on that. First episode, the client had a son that like Burn Noticed bonded with, but like protected at the same time. Like there's the bad guys broke into the house and like were pretty sure they were threatening the son, so Burn Notice had to go in there. So it's happened
at least once.
In the first episode, no less.
Okay. I don't know how fair that is if it still happens to, like, women a whole bunch, and you're like, well, it happened in that first time, though, so it's probably evensy. So right off the bat, I think they opened the podcast with some very interesting stuff, specifically given, like, what our podcast is, because they spend a good chunk of time discussing criticism. What it is, why it's important.
Are we going to criticize their criticism?
Are we going to criticize their criticism? I mean, that's what we do, isn't it? That's the whole...
Oh, shit, you're right.
They're critiquing Burn Notice, and we're critiquing them. That's kind of the whole idea. And so that's why I thought it was very interesting that they kind of opened the episode talking about it. Specifically because their little intro bit, they say, send us no criticism of any kind, which we blatantly and flagrantly ignore by producing a weekly podcast where we just send them criticism. Like, some of the feedback that they had gotten on the podcast was, like, specifically, like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you even bothering to, like, critically look at this show? And I think that there's two kind of places that comes from, and one is a place of, like, this is great and I love it, and if you criticize it, you're criticizing me. And that's the one they talked about on the podcast. But I think another place that this comes from that they didn't really think about is a place of, like, why are you criticizing this thing that isn't trying to be, like, great? Mm-hmm. It's fluff. It's not trying to be, like, high art or, like, prestige TV. It's popcorn TV. It's fluff.
I mean, I still think you can hold up fluff to a higher standard.
No, absolutely. And here's what I was going to say, is I think both of those arguments are interesting. I think there's some argument to be made for just examining it, right? And being like, there are certain tropes that, like, when you look at them, you're like, oh man, I really love that. Why do I really love that? Like, you really love children failing to impress their parents?
Yeah, I don't get that.
It's a trope of yours that is a favorite, but, like,
I don't know why, but it is.
But I think there's something interesting, like, that you can learn about yourself, and you can learn about... There's stuff to be learned by, like, breaking things down, no matter, like, what it is, right? Mm-hmm. They already really covered the idea of, like, it's okay to criticize and to break down things that you love. And, like, criticizing them is an attack on it. And I know me and you specifically are, like, the kind of people who are, like, how else do you show affection for something if not to analyze it to death?
This is what I liked. This is what I didn't like. This is what could have been better. This is what surprised and shocked me. And
yeah. And it's like the process of doing that is why we love it so much.
We're engaging with it.
Right. And I think from, like, a certain perspective, it can seem really silly to engage in something so much that, like, you might, like, at first glance be like, well, it doesn't really call for that, right?
Right.
Right? I mean, I think there's stuff to be gained from doing that. So, yeah. I thought that was interesting right off the bat. I don't know if you have any thoughts that you'd like to add?
I added them in the midst of the conversation.
You did it already.
Yeah.
The other thing that they do really early on is talk about elementary. And so
very briefly,
but
you're just using this as an excuse to talk about elementary.
For
but
sure.
Go ahead.
I mean, I actually wanted you to give your take because it's the same.
Oh, my take on elementary is we watched, 3-4 seasons?
Yeah.
3.5 probably.
Loved it. Really good.
Yeah, okay. I love half of it.
Yes.
It's half a great show and half a procedural. It does character stuff really well. Every character scene in that show was really well written and really well done. And then there's the scenes where just the plot is happening. And they never merge the two. Except for some of the finale stuff in season 1 sort of blends the two together fairly well. And that's why I really like that. But for the most part, they will stop the plot. The ongoing mystery of the week. They will stop it to have a character moment that's completely separated from the rest of the episode, and then they'll go back to the plot. They're always completely separated. They're never integrated.
It's so frustrating because it could so easily be beauty character driven, which is something that I'm always looking for when it comes to entertainment. The parts that are so well written and you love the characters so much, and you're I just want to see more from them. I want to see more for them.
I would start tuning out during the cases and then tune back in when the character stuff was happening.
Dude, I absolutely tune out during fight scenes and anything.
Do you know what episode that probably put the nail in the coffin for me and why I kind of stopped watching Elementary?
Yeah, I do, but I want to hear you say. I want to hear you talk about it.
Every episode of Elementary is pretty much a murder mystery. And it's always the same sort of deal. It's always we got this, we think it's this person.
Suspect.
Yeah, we have this suspect. And then, boom, that suspect's dead. Generally, what's his face? The Lestrade who's not Lestrade. Because there is a Lestrade, but it's not that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
He'll call in and be like, oh, so-and-so that you're after, well, they're dead. And every episode. And it got so predictable. Then there was one episode that filled me with hope. I don't even remember the plot. But they basically had to break into...
They were setting up a heist.
Yeah, they were setting up a heist. And they had, found floor plans for the place. And, they were going to have to go in and get out in, certain time. It was going to be very tight and timed. Sherlock was, he had mapped it out on the roof of his own apartment, how they were going to get in and do all this stuff. And I was awesome! We're doing something different! Then, not Lestrade calls in and says, oh, hey, this guy died there, so now we have an excuse to go in.
We don't even need to do the heist.
We don't need to do the heist. And then it became a murder mystery. And they just completely killed that heist.
You're so furious at the idea that they, promised you something. And they're just kidding, we're going to do what we always do, because that's what you want.
It just made me so angry.
That's basically our feelings about Elementary, and I just wanted to talk about it because I like talking about things.
Will we ever finish it, you think?
Yeah, eventually. Eventually we'll run out of other things to watch. So. I think it's easier to watch things when it's already ended because you know how much of it you're going to watch.
Right.
When it's still airing, you're I don't know. It seems like a big commitment.
Yeah.
When you're what is it, 2-3 seasons? Yeah, I can watch that in a week. I want to say that later on in the episode, Chris Cherry mentions that he can't judge Mr. Burn Notice for doing something in the dark because he also likes sitting in the dark. Mm-hmm. I would just like to say same. I don't know how many times you've come home and I've just been sitting on the couch doing something like painting, something that requires eyesight, and I'm just in the dark.
It's probably bad for your eyes.
Yeah, probably. It's probably why I need glasses.
Straining those pupils.
But it's nice. The dark is nice.
I'm sorry I said pupils.
I'm sorry you did too. I tried to ignore it. I tried to roll right over it for your own benefit, for you.
Yeah, but you just can't leave that hanging.
Yeah, no one likes to hang in pupe.
I mean, some people are into it. Pupe daddies.
No! I can't. We can't. We can't.
Okay, sorry, continue. What was your next note?
Okay, questions. One that I can't believe I have to answer. Alligators, they do not have breasts. That was in fact...
I bet I can find some pictures online to prove you wrong.
I know that you can, because I run a blog, and there are also pictures of bread and pasta and...
You can't just say I run a blog and not say what the blog is.
Because I don't want people to actually go there. I haven't actually run it in a very long time, and it's...
You were mildly internet famous for
I was a little bit. I still get notes on it all the time. I used to run a site called Boobs Don't Work That Way, and it was just a collection of ridiculous boob physics.
In pop culture.
So what I'm saying is, I'm an expert on this topic. No, alligators do not have breasts. They're not mammals, Chris. What the fuck?
Do they have butts?
I mean, they have glute muscles, so in a way...
Are you positive about that? Specifically glute muscles?
No. But I feel like...
Probably?
Yeah.
She's got that alligator booty.
Okay. That was the one question.
Was that a question?
It was a question. It was a question that was posed in the podcast. I wrote it down. Now, the next question was kind of technically posed directly at us.
Kind of.
I want to
Unless there's some other show that is an after show for Burn Notice.
I want to hear what your opinions are on that.
Pimp us out on your show.
No, okay. Because listen, I don't know if we need to explain, like, the way that they said it. They were like, I don't know the answer to this question. If only there was some other podcast that was like an after show that just answered questions we didn't know the answer to, which is a segment on our show. It's the one we're in now.
They're very clearly talking about us.
They're very clearly talking about us, but not mentioning us. And here's why I think that's actually very important and a smart and good idea. If they start responding to our feedback in their podcast...
We're affecting their podcast?
Not only are we affecting their podcast, but it becomes like a... I still can't say that word.
Pubes.
No.
Oral?
Ouroboros.
Please. Ouroboros?
Please.
Ouroboros?
Ouroboros?
I think.
Ouroboros.
A snake eating its own tail.
It literally becomes like a loop.
The logo for the never-ending story.
A loop of being inside your own ass. Of like response. But do you understand what I'm saying? Like.
Question.
Yes.
Does a snake have a booty?
I don't want to get into this discussion.
Or breasts?
Because it's foolish. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
That, like, it would get way too, like, self-referential, too fast, and also, like...
I mean, what are you talking about?
Then we
that's
would
what this show entirely
That's what I'm saying.
of.
If they respond to the show on their show, then we have to respond to that on our show, and it becomes a whole thing.
It's a dialogue. It's a conversation.
If they don't acknowledge it, it remains this sort of one-way thing.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying. It's not a dialogue,
but
right?
Here's the thing.
It's a monologue right now.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
It could be a dialogue, and if it was a dialogue, I think that might be bad.
But here's the thing.
What?
Did they not specifically reference us? Really?
A little bit.
Through a comedic bit that we are now responding to.
This is what I'm saying, though. Because now we have to spend time on our show talking about it. It's like a whole thing. So, like, if they like said on the show, like, oh man, last week Burn Notice said this, and I think that, we
have to talk about that. But again, they
like,
are referencing our podcast.
We are having like a back and forth discussion, and now like you have to listen to both podcasts to understand what's happening. And like it just doesn't make sense for their show.
Well, I mean, I think their show, they could say that this is from that other podcast, and it's fine without having to make other people listen to our podcast, though they should. But, like, I think their show would still stand on their own. You definitely cannot listen to our podcast without listening to their podcast.
I think you can.
It'd be weird to do so.
It'd be weird, but I think you could. I think you could get enjoyment from it. Because I recap, like, you can definitely listen to our podcast without watching Burn Notice, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like you could listen to Burn, Notice without watching Burn Notice.
Maybe. I mean, you do.
I do. And I get enjoyment from the podcast.
I think I get extra enjoyment because I know what the hell they're talking about.
I think I get extra enjoyment because I'm not watching Burn Notice.
It's not that bad.
No, I'm sure I'd actually really like it if I watched it. But I can't. It would destroy the integrity of our show.
Well, once they finish and they wrap up, then you can go back and watch it.
We'll see.
Oh, you know what? We'll go back. We'll do an episode-by-episode guide to Burn Notice, revisiting it once you've actually seen it.
Once I've seen it. I don't think so.
It'll be Burn Noticed recap.
Recapped. No, I don't. I'm not super on board for this.
Season 2.
Okay. I do want to discuss what the actual question was.
Oh, right, yes.
Which is, when did the first iPhone come out?
2007. 2007,
the first iPhone came out. They weren't widely used until the 2010s. you would probably know, like, one dude who had an iPhone in, like, 2007, but, like, that one dude was, like, an early adapter. It's like, you maybe knew, like, one dude who had, like, Google Glass.
You have way more information on your notes.
Oh, yeah, I do. So
it goes all the way back to 1994?
The first phone with a touchscreen was called the Simon in 1994.
Okay, never heard of that.
I think it also could do...
making it up.
I'm not. It had a touch... It's a big brick phone with, like, a touch screen in the middle, but it still has, like, the earpiece and, like, the mouthpiece on either end. There was also the Nokia 9000 communicator, which was released in 1996. I didn't write down what it did specifically. It could get to the internet.
It communicated 9000.
It could get to the internet. It had a little LED screen. I don't think that the screen was a touchscreen, but you should look up a picture of it because it's like a big brick phone, but then it splits open and there's a QWERTY keyboard and a screen on the inside.
Oh shit, that's really cool.
So yeah, you can see it there closed, and it just looks like a Nokia phone, and then it splits open, and it's like a Palm Pilot. When I Googled it, people were saying the Nokia 9000 was the first smartphone, and other people were saying it was the Simon.
That's not even a cell phone.
Well, they call it the first smartphone.
Okay, but that's still like a home phone on a base and shit.
That is some cell phone history for you to think about. I want the Nokia 9000 real bad. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I don't even know. It looks like a game system and not like a phone.
Those are the answers to the questions posed in the episode. So your preference is that they would reference us on the show?
Yeah, just for promotional reasons.
Just to be like, go watch.
I want every episode for them to be like, hey, I love Joe, and that's it.
You want the podcast to just be like, here's every reason why Joe's my favorite person.
Yeah.
And also, here are links to all of his content.
Yeah.
With paragraph descriptions of why they're great.
Yeah, just go through all of my content and tell me what's great about all of them. You know, all my videos, all of the podcast, every episode of the Watch-A-Thon Wrestle-On, every episode of Burn Notice. Yeah, wait, maybe that will be to Snake eating its own tail thing.
Yeah.
Oh shit, you're right.
Are you okay? Your brain just locked up.
Yeah, but yeah, just I want them to at least acknowledge how great I am. I don't care about you, just me.
You see.
Okay.
I see. Well, you're wrong. Now, we need to move on to the next segment. We need to rate the episode. Like, we done talked about it, I think.
All right, cool.
You got anything you want to say?
I love me.
Yeah, I know.
And other people should, too.
Was this a great episode of a podcast?
Did it change how you think about something?
No.
No.
No, the last time I just said no, you're like, you can't just say no. You have to quantify it. Qualify it.
Well, what do you mean? I don't... Why did I say that?
The hell if I know.
There was nothing in it that changed my viewpoints.
That's fair. Did it make you cry?
No.
Me either. Did it make you laugh?
Yeah.
Yeah. It got a chuckle or two out of me. Did it make you laugh out loud while you were listening in the office?
Yes.
It did.
I've stopped caring.
Really?
But now I might be laughing out of spite.
Right. That kind of throws the whole scale out of whack.
Just be like, ha 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 ha.
I mean,
Take that, Toni.
If I hear you from my office and you're like, ha 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 ha, I know that's not genuine.
Right. I mean, I listed off the things I laughed at.
Yeah.
So Bernard noticed
it made
PhD.
us laugh, but we previously established that just making us laugh isn't enough to be a great episode of a podcast. Is it a great episode of Burn, Noticed?
Okay, well, you still haven't updated your sheet.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you know what happened in the episode of Burn
No,
Notice?
but that's on you.
What?
Yeah.
I confused you.
You confused me. You were like, no, that's not what happened. And then you repeated back what I said happened.
Kind of. Listen, you probably know the episode better than I do, so... And I watched it.
You watched it with your own eyeballs.
I would say you do know it.
All right.
I don't.
I can't trust you is the thing. Like, that's what's broken here. The trust for your...
Well, when you pointed stuff out,
impartial
I was
judging
listen,
is gone.
I was confused by your summary of it, but you had the knowledge. You were
that
just
is something you're supposed to
poorly.
Separately be... You're supposed to give me two different ranks. One for my recap and their recap. It's two different numbers.
Well, yours is a 4.
Out of what?
Sure. So I'd say, yeah, I feel like you know what happened. I don't. But you do.
Were you entertained for the duration of the podcast?
That's not what we're doing anymore.
What are we doing? You tell me.
The Bri-Chris dynamic. Is Chris annoyed and Bri defensive? Yes.
Okay.
Specifically during, actually not even talking about the episode, talking about the criticism. And she was like, here's the thing, we both love the show. And Chris is like, well...
Do you know what I forgot I had in my original notes, and they didn't make the cut when I copied them over. It's when it's Chris's turn to host episodes. The way Chris says masterpiece when he's reading the copy to call Burn Notice a television masterpiece. He says it like it tastes bad in his mouth.
But yeah, there's specifically a bit where he's like, I wouldn't say I love it. And then she's like, it's a masterpiece and I'll hear nothing else about it, basically. And I'd say that's definitely the Bri-Chris dynamic.
Sure.
What was the other thing? Daddy dynamic?
That's two things about dynamic. We've got to sort this out.
That's not necessarily dynamic. That's Chris is annoyed, Bri is defensive.
That's a dynamic.
Yeah, and the other dynamic...
No.
There's only two people!
There can't be three criteria, and two of them are like, is this dynamic present? Is this dynamic present?
Why not? That's why the way theirs is?
No, theirs is, it's one question. It's, are the side characters used to the best of their abilities? And then they have the two side characters as examples.
They also have, does he use spycraft? That's the Burn Notice guy's dynamic and the side character's dynamic.
Okay. It's the same thing. Twice.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I quit this show. We don't have it figured out. We'll come back later.
Alright, let me tell, because
what's yours?
My suggestion was that we just go by the pornography rule, which is, did you feel like it was a great episode of Burn Common Notice?
That doesn't seem like a good quantifying thing. Like, there's nothing specifically to point at. I don't know. What
would you propose?
I don't know. I
feel like we're gonna have to talk about this. Okay.
Because here's the thing. It's always gonna boil down to their dynamic.
Right.
Because it's two people on a podcast. It's not a whole show. You can't be like, was there a good action scene? No, it's a fucking podcast with two people.
Right. I still feel like we need something, like, their dynamic is one question. Like, it's definitely part.
That's combining the daddy dynamic and the annoy...
Yes, because that's one thing. It's a question of their dynamic. So it's, do I feel like I understand what happened in Burn Notice?
Yeah.
Was their dynamic, like, present and entertaining in the podcast?
Yeah.
And then we need a third thing. And that's why I am entertained for the duration of the podcast. And you said, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We're just doing...
Because that's so vague.
It is vague. How would you make it more specific?
I don't know. Did you get a boner?
I almost never get boners while listening to podcasts.
Also, that's too vague for me.
Right. Because you just are constantly rock hard. Constantly.
Yeah. Never not.
There's some set, like, at this point you should have called a doctor.
That's what it said on the bottle.
Yeah.
I don't know. Every episode we have to figure this out. Every episode.
Here's the thing, like, we sat down, we talked about it, I went through all the trouble of printing out his list.
You printed it way too soon.
Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't think it was going to be this difficult. I didn't think there was going to be quite so much discussion about it. It's very similar to what we already had.
Okay. How about something that's a variation on Am I Entertained?
Yes.
Is it edited well? Did they not leave in too much boring shit? You know what I mean? Like, were they not... I don't want to say concise, because...
It's like a question of pace.
Yeah. Was it well paced? It did... Because
there's definitely, like... There have been some editing choices that we've never really discussed editing choices on the podcast. There have definitely been times where I'm like, they should cut that. Mm-hmm. Like a couple episodes back, I think it was very clear that like the record got interrupted and they started again, and there's just like a chunk of Bri being like, okay, and let's go, and that's in the podcast. Yeah. I could see that. I could see a question of like,
is there a lack of that?
Well, it's just like pace and editing, just like from a technical perspective. But I think that's what. Are you entertained for the duration means? It's not like, am I laughing the whole time? It's like,
there's never the whole way through.
There's never a point where it like loses my interest, where I'm like, they went off on like a tangent and I did not care. I feel like
the tangents are what I like, though.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like entertaining. I feel like you've reworded it. Like, I feel like it's the same, but if like that's
this one's back in. This one's back in. Is that what you're saying? Am I entertained for the duration of the podcast? Is that it's back?
I didn't know it was ever out.
It was out.
No, I only have one crossed out,
now,
and that's the question of dynamic,
which is back in.
No,
we just won. We wound up back with the original set of criteria.
The first one was that we thought it would be...
But we've better defined them.
The first one was that we thought it would be a great episode if they experienced a dynamic shift.
Right.
So if their dynamic changed. And we actually changed it to completely the opposite.
Is there an example of their dynamic?
Yes.
Gotcha.
That was the only thing that changed. I feel like, am I entertained for the duration of the podcast? And how did you word it?
Like, if it's well-paced and if they don't leave in too much, stuff that doesn't need to be
faffing about.
Well, not even faffing about. I'd say, like if they just went through the motions. If they just, were recounting the plot and that was it, that'd be boring.
Okay.
There needs to be enough variety and fun, and not just
this is what happened,
and this happened. Is there a good flow?
Flow. I like that word. I like that word. I'm going to codify it. I'm going to put that in this specific criterion.
Flow?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, we need to write this shit down. Second of all, given the criteria that we have now set and argued about for a minute, was this a great episode of Burn, Noticed?
Yes.
Okay, let's not discuss it any further than that.
I mean, we went through each of the things. There's the dynamic, which we've already talked about. You knew what happened, and it flowed. Yeah.
I still feel like if it meets all three of those criteria, it's a good episode of Burn, Noticed. And if it's a great episode, that's the one that I know in my heart. Where it's this was great, and I don't have to qualify it any further. That's a good episode of Burn Notice if it meets all three of those. It's great if I say so.
All right. Is it great?
No.
All right.
But it is good.
I guess.
You wanted it to be great?
I think every episode is great.
But this is what I don't want to happen.
We're too close to the product.
You are.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah, you don't give a shit about Bri and Chris. Hey, I just drove 2 hours to meet Chris at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes.
I wound up staying overnight in Nashville just to see Chris.
You're too close.
And I love him. And then he had a sex dream involving me.
That might not be information that was supposed to be shared in a podcast format.
It's fine. He wasn't having sex with me.
You were just
was
there.
Just present.
I've also had sex dreams like that. You've thrown me so bad.
I'm just saying, I am pretty close to Chris.
I'm saying, in order...
Not close enough to dream fuck.
Right. I'm saying, if you want to remain on this podcast, I'm going to need some impartiality from you.
Okay, it was fine. Episode was okay.
If you didn't...
You guys do better.
If you didn't
you guys suck, actually.
No, listen to me.
Fuck Bri and Chris.
I'm asking you to be...
Burn Notice.
Impartial. You're swinging too far the other way.
And you know what? Fuck Jeffrey Donovan,
no.
Fuck Matt Nix, fuck Bruce Campbell.
First of all, how did you even say that?
Plays Fee, I don't know her name. Fuck Cagney or Lacey, whatever.
This is not impartial. This is just you've swung too far the other way.
Fuck Burn Noticed.
Fuck Burn Noticed in particular, for sure.
Yeah, especially Toni and Joe.
Listen, can you, if this was just an episode of a podcast that you just listened to and you did not know the hosts, would you say it was a great episode?
No.
Okay, that's all I needed to know.
I'd say it's good, though.
You said I would also say that.
I'd say it's really good, actually.
Yeah.
I'd say it's pretty damn good. I'd say it's great, actually.
Oh my God.
You know what? I love Burn Notice. I love Bri. I love Chris. You know what? I even love Burn Notice. I love Jeffrey Donovan. I love Matt Nix. I love Bruce Campbell. I love whoever plays Fee. I don't know her name. I love Cagney and or Lacey. I love Cagney and Lacey.
Listen.
One of them's not even on the show yet. She does a guest spot later. You know, I love the USA Network. Characters welcome.
I love characters. Okay.
I love when good things are good.
Good things should be good. All right, I'm going to end this now because it stopped being productive. And that's it.
That's been Burn Noticed, your favorite podcast about your other favorite podcast. And Burn Noticed, you've been noticed, Burn.
I thought, I was like, oh man, he's replaced the sign-off with a much better sign-off.
Yeah, you're right. I love that sign-off. I hate that other sign-off, though.
Which one?
Fuck that other sign-off.